Hello, and welcome back to the channel. The Manhwa we are going to recap today will teach you how to deal with your school bullies. So let's begin with our recap. 500 years into the year of the Musin calendar, in hanging, a bolt of lightning strikes as someone questions the next opponent. A girl wielding a sword moves to strike her adversary. People used to say she wasn't destined to live as a woman, claiming she was born in the wrong era. The girl strikes her opponent once again, but he defends. She steps back before launching another attack. Through countless duels, she rose to the top, unmatched in swordsmanship. In all of Joseon, no one could rival her. Born with exceptional talent, she was now using her skills on her subordinates, a futile effort that felt like building a castle in the air. Suddenly, a sword attack comes from behind. She spins and defends, swiftly knocking the man down. She leaps into action, countering another attacker with precision. If she could overcome this hurdle, she would finally be allowed to go to war and sever the heads of the barbarians. One of her opponents looks around in confusion, trying to locate her. He freezes in shock as he feels the cold blade of her sword pressed against his neck from behind. In short, our female protagonist had no choice but to gladly wield her sword. Suddenly, someone shouts, "Stop!" calling out to the female warrior by name, Cheon Ha. The voice belongs to Kim Hong-gyum, the chief commander of the 5 Military Command's office and head of the oldest military family in Joseon. Cheon reluctantly sheathes her sword, while her father questions why she tries so hard to defy her predetermined fate. Having proven her skills, Cheon demands he keep his promise. She reminds him with a scream that he vowed to send her in place of her sick brother. Kim Hong-gyum stares at her in silence before walking away, murmuring that he prayed to heaven to bestow the greatest talent upon his family. Yet, he wonders bitterly why such talent was given only to his daughter, one who bears a soft, leaf-like fragility. It breaks his heart. Disappointed, Cheon also walks away. But her father calls after her, warning not a single hair of her is to be harmed, and to never forget she must become the queen. Cheon stops for a second before shouting at her men, instructing them to follow her, quickly stating if they show any openings like earlier, it won't be the barbarians' swords, but her that takes their heads. Such a commanding, strong character. She's incredible. The scene shifts to the morning. Someone urges the king to reconsider his order. Since it's impossible to place Kim Hong-gyum's daughter as the queen, questioning a woman who wields a sword, how can they allow this? The officials are afraid. They worry her sword, already stained with blood, might one day be turned against his majesty. The king, tapping on his chair, grows angry. For how dare they speak this way about a hero who saved the country? But the audience persists, urging him to reconsider. During the war, Cheon endured immense physical pain, crushed bones, torn flesh, and suffered mental anguish watching her subordinates die. Yet, no matter how desperately she struggled, she could not escape the destiny heaven had set for her. What she wanted from her era was different from what the era wanted from her. The king places a hand on her shoulder, asking her to promise never to pick up a sword again. Cheon hesitates, memories flashing through her mind. Playing sword fights, hunting wild animals, and her father scolding her, calling her a stupid girl for doing so. She remembers laughing with her comrades, one of them teasing, "The loser of today's match will treat everyone to refreshing wine." Cheon mockingly states when she would ever be the one to treat them. The memories grow blurry. Tears stream down her face as she reluctantly agrees to the king's request. The scene shifts to Cheon, sitting silently with a bowl placed before her. The king questioned her if it's true that she killed concubine Haibin last night. Cheon protests, exclaiming, why would she kill the pregnant concubine carrying the royal hair? This is slander. But the king, without listening, responds coldly, replies, "You fear the queen." You stupid king, how could you conclude this without any investigation? Idiot, misogynistic king. Cheon pleads for her life, begging to be spared, but they grab her and force a poisonous liquid down her throat. Tears rolling down her cheeks, she wonders how it came to this. She sacrificed her life to save the country, only to die such an absurd, unfair death. The audience, on the other hand, thinks it's a relief. They had worried about the lack of an heir and whispered that no matter how much Cheon saved the country, who would want to embrace such a masculine queen? Now, they could finally relax. It was all part of their plan. With concubine Deokbin conceiving the royal heir, their era was just beginning. Cheon had only wanted to practice martial arts, to live freely, like a bird in the sky. But now, she was dying, her talent unrealized. Furious and heartbroken, she vows that if there is a next life, she will never die like this again. With a sudden beep, the scene shifts. Xiang wonders if heaven has answered her wish. Somehow, heaven had not abandoned her. She had been rewarded for her sacrifices, even after death. In a dark, underground area, someone remarks, "This video will get a lot of views." Another person agrees, laughing. Especially since Park Daejin even peed herself. Someone else teases, wondering why she's so quiet. Another mocks, if they are worried Daejin might actually be dead. Adding, if Yoojin's so scared, why don't he go check on her himself? But Yoojin, clearly terrified, protests. Suddenly, the door bursts open. Kim Chaewon from Juwon High School states she's here. Juwon, the idol of Juwon High, comments, "It took her 10 minutes to get here." Chaewon turns to Choi Songha, the head of Juwon High, asking if they should just eat and leave. Laughing, she calls the situation ridiculous. Songha smokes, muttering curses about the brats and how boring they are. Just then, a delivery woman enters, asking if someone ordered jjajangmyeon. The three start leaving, making the woman question who will pay. Songha turns, smirking, and tells her they didn't order anything. The delivery woman wonders aloud who did. They advises her to call them. But as she does, shock overtakes her. The voices on the other end talk about Park Daejin, laughing at her. They call her a bore and mockingly wonder if she can even hear them. They make fun of how her expression is similar to her mom when she's surprised. Terrified, the delivery woman rushes to check a red tank in the room. Her hands tremble as she opens it and screams. Inside is a lifeless body. She pulls the girl out, shaking her and pleading for her to wake up. Park Daejin's eyes twitch slightly. It seems heaven had granted Cheon's wish. The butterfly of fate flutters into her body. When Daejin opens her eyes, she declares if she knows who she is. And how dare she lay a finger on her? Nothing less than Cheon, reborn as a high school student in 2024. Cheon had felt death close to the brink many times before. This wasn't her first experience. When her mother died protecting her from assassins, she was left alone when an enemy's sword narrowly missed her heart, even when those who tried to depose her from her position as queen framed her multiple times. Heaven had given her several opportunities to escape death, but now she wondered if she had used up all those chances. She thought about where things had gone wrong. But anyway, not that it mattered now. On the verge of death, slowly all her senses started to numb. She supposed she was finally dying. Someone was calling her Daejin and telling her to wake up, but Cheon felt she had no strength left and was already too sleepy. The machines beep, and someone comments, from the external injuries, it looks like there could have been fractures or organ ruptures, but fortunately, there's nothing. The beeping grows louder and Daejin wakes up. Cheon wonders how she is alive. She scans the room, trying to think about where she is, and remembers that she drank the poison. But a thought crosses her mind. If this is the afterlife, a hospital in the afterlife seems so strange. The nurse beside her sees her awake and goes to call the doctor. Cheon wonders who this person is. Yes, love, she's your afterlife catering nurse. Cheon grabs the nurse, demanding to know who she is and why she has taken her here. Another thought crosses her mind. Why does her voice sound different? She gets up, thinking she needs to go to her palace. Next time I end up in the hospital, I'll say this sounds so paranoid and funny. The nurse calls out to her, asking where she is going. Cheon starts running, calling for Lady Kim. She passes by a window and comes back to see her reflection. She is shocked and questions why she looks like this. Reaching out for the window, she becomes even more shocked by the bright lights. She wonders if the people who framed her hired a shaman to curse her because there's no way she could be in this bizarre place. Her heart starts hurting, and she wonders what is happening. A woman comes running toward her, asking for help. The nurse points and calls for her to go back to her patient room. Cheon is confused, wondering who Park Daejin is while she thinks it is all a dream. After a brief pause, she declares this is clearly reality. She concludes that she has been reincarnated into someone else's body. The owner of this body had been beaten to death while sitting on her bed drinking. Cheon feels angry, wondering if the person committed treason or something. She sighs, realizing that 3 days have passed, and all she knows is that this is New Joseon, 500 years in the future. Looking around at the people around her, she tightly grabs her kanj. She states she clearly told them, no matter how much time has passed, how dare they dine with her at the same time. Flames seem to come out of her mouth. The people stare for a while before thinking that she is simply acting out due to amnesia, since they were told she had hit her head. Dajin curses them. This is so funny. A woman from behind taps her shoulder, holding a box of chicken pieces. She smiles and points out the hospital food must be bland. Pushes her to try this, even if she has forgotten everything. She wouldn't have forgotten this taste. Dejin turns her head away, but the smell of the chicken catches her attention. She tells the woman to summon the palace food taster, adding, if that's difficult, then at least bring her a silver spoon. Her mischievous mind can't resist. The woman tries the food and responds, this is so good that one could die while eating. Dejin takes the chicken and tries it. With her first bite, she is in denial about the taste, but her eyes begin to sparkle. She has never tasted anything like this in her life. The outside is crispy and the inside is moist. She dramatically declares, this is amazing. She is happy over how much the world has improved, thinking that such delicious food has been created. Wait until you try ramen, and everyone around her starts clapping. She waves them off, as there's no need to be impressed, commenting she has always been known for eating well and not being picky with food. In fact, she was reputed as a virtuous queen in the palace. God, what is this girl? She's so cute and funny, made me laugh so hard. Suddenly, a reporter on the TV announces that their athlete is completely dominating the opponent. Everyone in the hospital room watches as the boxers fight. The reporter calls it a perfect shot. A girl with red headsets has just won a gold medal. Dajin is confused over seeing a woman fighting, but gets joyful over the longer she stays here, the better it was getting. The scene shifts to an apartment. Dajin comes out of the shower, happy with how the water works even without a well. It was amazing. No matter how many times she bathed, it was always the same. She is also happy to be wearing trousers instead of skirts, feeling very comfortable. Stretching her legs, she is pleased as she has never gotten the chance to do so before. She looks at the amazing moped floor and calls everything perfect. Her attention is drawn to a book on the shelf. She takes it down, noticing that it looks similar to her family emblem. She opens it and finds it is a personal diary. The diary contains entries about her past, including a day when she didn't lend her Hun clothes or asked for stolen money to be returned. The entries conclude, my very birth was a mistake. I just want to die like this. Dajin stares at the diary. The scene shifts to the past, where Dajin is standing all beaten up, pleading with someone to save her. They grab her hand and bully her. Song-ha starts singing, questioning why she was born if she was just going to live getting beaten up by them, pointing out how many birthday lunches are left. Someone tells Song-ha, it's the last one. Song-ha mocks to make the last one special. Dajin becomes terrified and starts pleading to be saved. Song-ha swings her baseball bat, and when Dajin starts to resist, Song-ha knocks her down. What the actual hell is this? I mean, who do they think they are, bullying someone like this? While lying on the floor, Dajin keeps pleading for someone to save her. It's early in the morning, and Dojin walks into the school, wondering if this is the place called school. She looks around joyfully, calling it amazing. She points out that it's a great world where women can study too. She means that men and women are different, and they are taught in a sacred place, shocked over how a woman bares her skin and shows off her beauty. But she snaps herself out of it, laughing and saying that she must see this world through glassy eyes to live in it. It's like asking millennials to live as Gen Z kids. Dojin stands all alone in a corridor, unsure of where to go. The scene shifts to a classroom. Changwon is picking her ear, clearly annoyed that because of Dojin, they were told to stay in the classroom. The teacher introduces Dojin, explaining that she suffered a head injury and doesn't remember much, and they need to help her. Song-ha stares at her as Dojin goes to sit at her chair. The girl with pink hair looks at her nervously. But Dojin is lost in her own thoughts, remembering how her mom told her there would be food at school. Mischief crosses her mind as she thinks about how they serve chicken. The teacher dismisses the class, telling them to enjoy their lunch. The kids start chattering excitedly about what's for lunch, and someone answers that it's meat today. Dojin asks the pink-haired girl for a favor, explaining that it's not a difficult request. She just wants the girl to give her a tour of the school for a few days. The girl abruptly stands up, and Dojin pulls at her sweater, telling her that if she helps, she won't forget to repay the favor. The girl pulls away from her, screaming about how she can't help when she's unable to do anything. Dojin becomes uneasy, sensing she might not be close with her desk mate. The girl adds that Dojin shouldn't talk to her and points out that she should remember. Before she can finish her sentence, Shiwon smacks her head, reminding her about the class announcements and the punishment for talking to Dojin. The girl, terrified, responds, "One hit." Wait, what is this nonsense? Who does she think she is? Shiwon, ready to smack her again, says the punishment has changed to 2 hits. But just as she's about to hit her, Dojin grabs Chiwon's hand, shocking everyone. She demands to know how Chiwon dares to hit her. Chiwon mocks her, saying she's lucky, and grabs her hair. A thought crosses Dojin's mind. How is she grabbing her hair? Is she threatening her? Dojin screams, calling her naughty, and demands that Chiwon explain what she's doing. Chiwon responds, asking if Dojin really doesn't know what's going on. She thought Dojin was lying about losing her memory. Dojin asks what that means, and Chiwon gets angry, wondering why Dojin is talking to her like that. She contemplates whether Dojin has lost her mind. She grabs Dojin's hair again, threatening if she really thinks they were fooled by her lying in the hospital for a few days. Before pushing her on the ground, Dojin is hurt more than she expected, realizing it's not just her body. Did these kids make Park Dojin's body like this? It's hard to understand because they don't even seem like they have martial arts training. Chaewon calls Dojin's mom a fool and kicks her in the stomach, taunting that they thought her mom would hear them. She adds that they hid her in plain sight, but her mother found them faster than they thought. They found it fun because her mom's freaked out expression was hilarious. Still on the ground, Dojin asks why they are doing this. Chaewon, still mocking her, asks what Dojin is saying. She wonders if Dojin's ears are like her mother's. I want to grab Chaewon by the hair and knock her out. The girls around Chaewon laugh, commenting that Dojin will have to change her behavior. Chaewon grabs a pen from a kid's desk and points it at Dojin's head, threatening her. She asks her if they should come to her Mither restaurant since they know where her mom works, and questions if they should give her a review tour. Dojin responds calmly, questioning how Chaewon dares to bully her friends, even though they live in such a great world, and wonders what's behind this behavior. Chaewon pretends to think for a moment before she tells Dojin that she's a sin just for being born. Looking at her makes Chaewon want to torture her. This shocks Dojin, as she remembers what she read in the book. Dojin stands up, concluding that Chaewon was the one who tormented the body. Chaewon laughs, thinking Dojin came up with something after getting beaten. But then Dojin adds that she might be talking too much today. Chaewon demands Dojin to open her eyes and is about to pinch her, threatening to blind her. We're the hell of a teachers. Dojin grabs Chaewon's hand before she can harm her, and Chaewon demands to know what she's doing. Chaewon starts screaming, and Dojin calmly asks her if she knows anything about the marks on her arms, hinting that it might look similar to what happens to slaves who try to run away. Chaewon nervously confirms, wondering if Dojin has forgotten that she was once the class's exclusive slave. Dojin confidently states that no matter how much time has passed, she still can't stand the pain of the parents who gave birth to her. She grabs Chaewon's hands and says that she wants to live a long life, then forcefully draws a line on her hand. Chaewon insists that Dojin explain what she's doing, to which Dojin responds since she is going to hit her once today, she will just tell her one thing to think carefully about how many of these spots are left. There's a terrifying tension in the air as the atmosphere becomes cold and unsettling. Dojin then grabs Chaewon by her hoodie and throws her on the ground, causing Chaewon to slip the pen from her hand. Dojin picks up the pen, making Chaewon terrified. Suddenly, Yoojin appears from behind, grabs Dojin, and questions if she's crazy. Dojin dramatically turns, mocking him and asking if he thinks she's weak, that she can't hit a man. This terrifies Yoojin, who freezes like a scared cat and steps back. The ones who threaten the weak are the weakest themselves. She spins the pen and points it at Chaewon's head, drawing a line on her face. Reaching her eyes, she threatens if she ever look at her again, she will take her eyeballs out and feed them to the fish. As she reaches her nose, she threatens if she ever use this nose to follow a bad scent again, she will make her smell like blood for the rest of your life. Finally, she reaches her lips, warning, if she ever use these lips to harm anyone again, she will make sure to tear them off and hang them by your ears. She tells Chaewon to remember to value the body her parents gave her. The environment turns cold and terrifying with a look of pure fear on Chaewon's face. The next morning, everyone is walking to school. Dojin's mother is taking her there, expressing her wish that Dojin could either transfer to another school or get her GED instead. As they approach the school, Dojin gets off the bike, hands her mother the helmet, and assures her not to worry. Dojin thinks to herself, they're just kids. Kids? I mean, you are practically dealing with devils. Back in the previous scene where Dojin confronts Chiwon, Dojin threatens her, stating it's worse than Chiwon thinks. She warns her that unless she has 2 lives to live, it would be better to beware her behavior in the future. Fear visibly flashes across Chiwon's face. Yujin, standing behind them, is astonished at how Dojin managed to knock Chiwon down in one go. Boy, learn your lesson now, or you might be next. Dojin ends the confrontation by handing a pen back to the kid Chiwon was tormenting. As she turns to leave, she looks back and asks Yuna if she's coming with her or not. Yuna, confused and hesitant, stands frozen. As they both exit the classroom, Song-ha watches them leave, her gaze intense. Meanwhile, the students in the class film Chiwon, mocking her and laughing at her expense. Outside, Dojin stretches, thinking to herself how long it's been since she warmed up like that. She then advises Yuna, if something like this happens again, not to get scared. It's advantageous to suppress the opponent from the start, tells her to strike their philtrum or uvula to throw them off. She looks back to see if Yuna understands, but to her surprise, Yuna suddenly begins shouting at her. Because of Dojin, she's screwed now, pointing they are definitely going to retaliate. Yuna cries, visibly upset, questions what on earth was she thinking. Do you really want to get hit until you graduate high school? Dojin is taken aback, confused by Yuna's reaction. Yuna continues, tears streaming down her face. She points if she is doing all this because she pretended not to know that she was being bullied, but questions her if she really thinks she was comfortable with the way things were. She did so as she had no choice. This leaves Dojin puzzled. Yuna continues, kids like them can't do anything about it. As she speaks, a boy accidentally kicks a ball toward her. Yuna screams in fear, clearly startled. Dojin notices the ball and intercepts it. While Yuna is still crying, Dojin throws the ball far into the sky, telling the boys not to scare Yuna and to play more carefully. Turning to Yuna, Dojin asks if she's okay. Yuna stares at her for a moment, startled, before she replies she is leaving. Dojin watches her go, thinking to herself she will have to teach her martial arts. She's too sweet. I like her. The scene shifts to Chiwon, fuming with anger in the classroom. She starts cursing and throwing things around. Yujin tries to calm her down, but even he is shocked at her outburst. Chiwon turns to him, the marker stain still on her face from the earlier confrontation. Yujin, noticing this, bursts out laughing, mocks her if she forget her foundation at home. Changwon, annoyed, explains through gritted teeth that she came straight her and didn't have the chance to fix her face. The stain drives her even more insane as she grins her teeth in frustration. Song-ha in the room tells them to be quiet. Changwon immediately turns to her, demanding to know what their next plan is since Song-ha is the one who assigned Dojin as their class slave in the first place. Song-ha remains unfazed and tells her to shut up. Infuriated, Changwon grabs Song-ha by the shirt, demanding to know what she means by shut up, wanting to how would she feel if she got beaten in front of a whole class. Song-ha slaps her across the face. Since she kept telling her to stop, she icily replies if she was her, she would have dropped out of school from the embarrassment. Mocking her luck, commenting she's still having plenty of time to fight back. Yujin steps between them, trying to de-escalate the tension, telling Song-ha how Dojin was acting really strange today. Song-ha, lighting a cigarette, smirks, responds, even an earthworm squirms when you step on it, casually adding when an earthworm wiggles you step on it harder. She drops her finished cigarette to the ground and crushes it under her foot. As she leaves, she tells Chaewon to go home and fix her face, assuring she will inform the homeroom teacher, pointing out how embarrassing it is. Yoojun winks at Chaewon and leaves too. Left alone, Chaewon trembles with rage. She grabs her phone, calls someone, and coldly asks for a favor. The mood shifts into an ominous, chilling atmosphere. Looks like the little girl didn't learn her lesson. At lunchtime, Dojin is excited to eat rice. As she moves through the line, the cafeteria lady gives her a dish called hukse. Confused, Dojin asks if there isn't any chicken leg available since she prefers it with some chili powder. The cafeteria lady informs her that chicken legs will be available next week and advises her to check the meal plan. Dojin is baffled and in denial since she was craving chicken legs, her favorite. As she eats her food peacefully, some students in the canteen notice her and start whispering. One of them wonders if she is the girl Chiwon was talking about. Another girl comments she's the one whom Soo-jae hit hard because of the wrong bread. They laugh mockingly as Dojin, on the other hand, is distracted, debating whether the Pokemon sticker on her food is edible. Just as she stands up, announcing that she needs to meet Colonel Suksu and bring the canteen under control, someone throws food at her. Dojin freezes and turns around, her face blank with confusion. The students in the canteen start murmuring. A girl steps forward. Her name is Yang Soo-ji. She is from the Red Bison group at Juwon High. With a smirk, she calls Dojin Joseon Dynasty, and she sneers at Dojin, asking if she like her food that much. Despite the tension in the room, Dojin simply stares at her, her dark side slowly emerging. I'm sorry, but the nickname Joseon Dynasty is hilarious. Dojin tilts her face, asking who the people in front of her are. The girl with golden hair mocks her, questioning if the person they saw in the video is real. Another girl chimes in, calling the situation crazy, especially for someone from the Joseon era. Soo-ji sarcastically calls Dojin the noble from the Joseon era and asks how she is enjoying the food. Dojin wonders who these girls are and how long it has been since her last exorcism. She begins contemplating what the real owner of this body must have done to lead such a life. When Dojin doesn't respond, Soo-ji slams her hand on the table and repeats the question, demanding to know if she likes the food. Dojin thinks to herself how she could possibly like it when she hasn't even taken a bite. On top of that, she hasn't eaten anything since the morning light meal and even skipped the midday meal. This is her first meal of the day. Soo-ji, sensing her irritation, mockingly says that nobles from the Joseon era wouldn't know this, but food needs something extra to make it tasty. To emphasize her point, Soo-ji spits on Dojin's food, smirking as she claims it will now be salty. She then asks if Dojin is craving it yet. To her shock, Dojin remains unfazed. Soo-ji starts to panic, looking around and realizing that lunchtime ends at 10 o'clock. If she wants more food, she only has 20 minutes left. Frustrated, she mutters about the school schedule and curses her predicament, knowing that another exorcism would mean starving for 4 more hours. Annoyed by Dojin's stoic demeanor, Soo-jae grits her teeth and demands to know if Dojin even understands what is happening. Dojin, however, is still deep in thought, calculating which action would be faster. Soo-jae raises her hand in anger, only for Dojin to easily block the attack. This infuriates Soo-ji further, and she swings her fist at Dojin, but Dojin stops the punch effortlessly, leaving Soo-ji stunned at her strength. Dojin, with a calm yet critical tone, remarks that this is why her body feels so weak. She then casually notes that there is a corrupt official present too. Soo-ji, still seething with rage, asks Dojin what she means, but Dojin brushes her off, saying she doesn't have much time and that thanks to Soo-ji, she has already lost 3 minutes. She adds that Soo-ji should consider this her lucky day and turns to leave. Soo-ji, unwilling to back down, grabs her arm and declares that they won't know who's lucky until the end. Dojin remains unfazed and tells Soo-jae that this like doesn't give her much time to think. She yanks her arm free and advises Soo-jae to let go of her strength before it tears her apart. Soo-jae, confused by the warning, doesn't get a chance to process it before Dojin twists her arm behind her back. One of Soo-ji's friends calls Dojin crazy, clearly worried for Soo-jae. Soo-ji starts screaming, demanding to know what Dojin thinks she's doing and ordering her to let go. Dojin calmly examines her, noting that although she looks like flesh, her body is all muscle, solid muscle, hardened to the bone. She concludes that Soo-jae has a strong build. Soo-ji, furious, breaks free and punches Dojin in the stomach, asking if she wants to die. Dojin, still calm, concludes that Soo-jae is not someone who grew up in a chicken coop. Soo-ji shouts at her, demanding to know if she's out of her mind. Dojin, now leaning against the wall after the hit, puts it in simple terms. Soo-jae is a wild beast raised in the wild. An ominous atmosphere begins to settle as Dojin smirks, thinking it might be worth a try. Bro can never be serious. Soo-jae, confused by the sudden change, warns that after a few more hits, Dojin will regret it. She adds that reviews are important and announces her intention to set things straight today. She orders her friends to pick Dojin up. The scene shifts to the classroom where Yoojin asks Chae-woon why she seems so happy, questioning if she has gone crazy after getting beaten up by Park Do-jin. Chae-woon, playing on her phone, laughs and asks if she really looks that happy. Laugh all you want because your turn is coming up next. Just then, someone bursts into the classroom, announcing that Soo-ji is beating up Dojin in the cafe. Shangwoo, in excitement, drops her phone on the table. Looking at Songha, she confirms it's true, adding that sometimes people need to be beaten hard to come to their senses. Songha, on the other hand, wonders why Soo-jae is there, knowing that it's her territory. The entire class starts getting up to see the fight, with only 10 minutes left until lunch ends. Songha decides to go, but before leaving, Shiwon asks if she's going to watch Dojin get beaten. Songha sarcastically asks if Chiwon hasn't gone home yet. Shangwoo, engrossed in her game, replies that a student should finish their studies before going home. Songha places a hand on her hair, agreeing in theory, but knowing Chiwon isn't studying. Chingwoo, still distracted, wonders what Songha is talking about. Songha questions if Chiwon was the one to call Soo-jae. Shingwoo denies it, saying she would never do it as it would hurt her pride, adding she knows she is nothing without it. Songha, suspicious, places a hand on Chiwon's hair and warns her to be truthful, saying not even a dog would bite the hand that feeds it. Shangwoo grabs Songha's hand and reminds her that she is stronger, pointing out that she has been lenient because of their friendship. This infuriates Songha, who grabs Chiwon's hair and calls her out for spouting nonsense. Slamming Chiwon's head on the table, she coldly states that she never considered her a friend, only a lackey. She tells Chiwon to look her in the eyes when talking and then leaves her bleeding, her torn phone screen lying on the table. Shangwoo grins through her anger, blood dripping as she throws her broken phone across the room. Meanwhile, Songha walks through the corridor. Students make way for her, terrified of her cold and menacing expression. She keeps grinning, her aura icy and unapproachable, while she states she doesn't like to share. Soo-ji wonders why she's the one getting beaten up, even though she threw the first punch in the cafeteria and dragged the fight to a wider area. Why is she losing now? The thought crosses her mind, has she become a wimp? But she denies it immediately. Amidst her confusion, she notices blurry figures in the crowd. People are whispering among themselves, asking if Soo-ji, the leader of the Cheonghong group, is really the one getting beaten up. They call her a weakling. At the age of 12, Soo-jae had struggled to live up to her size. A memory surfaces. She's huffing and puffing during a race, and the PE trainer criticizes her, saying she's too slow and that a girl her size shouldn't be sluggish. Those words stung, and ever since, Soo-ji made it her mission to live up to her size. A flash from her past life plays, Soo-ji wrestling with someone and winning. Back in the present, she doesn't even remember who Dojin is. There have been too many people she's beaten up. Another scene plays in her mind. Soo-jae had tells Dojin to bring bread for her, but not from the school store. When Dojin hesitates, Soo-jae repeats her demand with more force. Yoon-ah has once brought her bread, but Soo-ji found it unsatisfactory. Sitting on Yoon-ah, Soo-jae explains why it wasn't good enough. Leveling up my foot, she is a legit psychopath. Yoon-ah trembles under her, and Soo-jae grabs a broom, throwing it aside as she threatens Yoon-ah to bring better bread or face her wrath. Dojin starts crying and pleads with her to stop, but Soo-jae paid no heed. Back in the present, Soo-jae is furious and wonders how she's losing to a wimp like Dojin now. Dojin, on the other hand, looks at Soo-ji and calmly remarks that she didn't dedicate her life to fighting only to see herself in such a state. She mocks Soo-ji, saying everyone goes through a hot-blooded phase, and pulls out the ribbon from her hair, preparing to fight. Wrapping the ribbon around her hand, she gets ready, knowing that the basics of martial arts lie in footwork. Soo-ji charges forward, fist clench, but Dojin uses the ribbon to catch Soo-ji's punch midair, pulling her forward and then landing a powerful punch. Soo-jae is stunned. Her jaw was knocked in an instant. Dojin's strength amuses Soo-jae, but the gathering crowd makes her uneasy. The murmurs start. People comment on how Dojin deflected Soo-ji's punches with just a string and point out that Soo-jae looks exhausted. Even second-year students mock her, laughing at how their supposed leader is being humiliated. Soo-ji trembles as she tries to stand, gripping her shirt tightly. Her fury begins to manifest, a dark aura surrounding her. She declares that everyone is dead now and charges at Dojin. Rather than being scared, Dojin looks exhilarated, thanking Soo-ji for rekindling her old memories. As Soo-jae rushes at her, Dojin recalls the days back in her previous life when they would gather in the marketplace to test their strength during festivals. Soo-jae is utterly confused by Dojin's nonsense. Smiling, Dojin says the number of spectators is perfect and invites Soo-ji to create an entertaining spectacle. Wrapping the ribbon around Soo-ji's waist, Dojin begins executing a wrestling move. Sujai recognizes it as wrestling but is baffled by how Dojin knows such techniques. Dojin shifts her stance, using Suji's center of gravity to her advantage, hooking her leg and pulling her off balance. Sujai grows pale as she realizes Dojin is attempting a bent arm lock technique. She screams in disbelief, questioning how Dojin knows this move, having only ever seen it on TV herself. Dojin reassures her, telling her not to be scared. Furious, Suji yells, demanding to know how Dojin dares aim for her thigh, warning her that she's the youth wrestling champion. Unfazed, Dojin calmly responds, "A wrestler must have the right mindset." Suji, realizing that lunch break is almost over, knows she needs to end this quickly. Though she was once the best martial artist in Joseon, she's now trapped in the body of an ordinary high school student. Gritting her teeth, she wonders if she can still pull off the techniques she once knew. While Suji asks Dojin if she's ready to forfeit, but quickly dismisses the thought. It's too late now since Dojin has already touched the red bison of Juwon High. Sujai declares she'll give Dojin a proper beating, cursing her as she pulls her up and questions if she regrets challenging her. Despite Suji's terrifying demeanor, Dojin remains calm. Sujai attempts a back throw, using her weight advantage, but Dojin counters. She uses the flexibility of her waist and the momentum of the move to throw Suji onto the ground with incredible force. The crowd is shocked, murmuring in awe. Someone wonders if it was a reversal or a suplex, while another points out that Suji's back might be broken. Yujin looks over at Songha, who watches Dojin with a terrifying expression, thinking to herself that she's an interesting kid. Sujai lies on the ground, still in denial over losing to Dojin. As Dojin approaches, she calmly tells Suji she'll take her leave for now, pointing out that her bones haven't fully matured yet. Taking a snack from Suji's pocket, Dojin remarks that she hasn't eaten anything all day. Suji slams her fist on the ground in frustration, unable to contain her anger. The crowd continues murmuring as Dojin walks away, completely unbothered. Yujin is still unable to believe that Dojin beat up Suji, let alone in a wrestling match. Everyone is going crazy over the move she pulled. Even the upper-class students are texting Yujin, asking who she is, pointing out that they need to show her what they're made of, while sighing over how she has become a completely different person. Yujin tells Songha to look at something, but she snaps at him to get it out of her face. This catches Yujin by surprise. As Songha walks away, Yujin wonders what her fans might be thinking, adding that things are already about to get bloody. Someone texts Yujin, asking who Dojin is. Yujin responds that she's in his class, but the person replies, saying they've never heard of her in either Muji or Cheongham. This makes Yujin bawl his eyes out, exclaiming internally, how could they know her when she's just a total loser? He reflects on their school, realizing it may look like an ordinary general high school on the surface, but in reality, it is far more brutal than any other. Juwon High School is a newly established institution that's only been around for 3 years. Half of its students come from Muji Middle High School, located in a wealthy neighborhood, while the other half hail from Cheongham Middle School, where all the tough kids gather. Due to its mixed demographics, the school is inevitably divided along middle school affiliations, which leads to frequent fistfights. It all boils down to which middle school comes out on top, determining who makes the first move and who takes the hits. Inevitably, with more real-world experience, the Cheongham kids have the upper hand over the Muji gang. At one point, someone places their foot on Yujin's face and tells him not to cause trouble at school. Yujin retaliates by calling them bastards, accusing them of using their money to buy people off. Not to be outdone, the Muji students began leveraging their wealth to suppress Cheongham. Thus, the cutthroat battle for dominance has persisted for 3 years. Of course, Songha attended Muji Middle High School, while Sujai and Chaewon went to Cheongham. Naturally, Chaewon should side with Yang Sujai. However, to balance the power dynamics, the Muji kids recruited people like Chaewon. For Chaewon, aligning herself with the wealthy Songha is more advantageous than supporting the unimpressive Sujai. As a result, she hangs out with Songha, but truth be told, Songha treats her like garbage. And as for Yujin, he's at this school simply because it has amazing food. Bro, same. I love yummy food. It makes me drool so bad. Watching Dojin, Yujin suspects she might be there for the same reason. When the class ends, the teacher asks the students to memorize the material, mentioning that today's lesson was easy. Dojin quickly turns to Yuna, pleading with her to show the lunch menu. She explains that it gives her peace of mind to know what's for lunch. Yujin observes her and wonders how someone who has been ostracized could try to take over like this. The scene shifts to someone hesitating as they rub their hands anxiously. Finally, they walk in. Someone questions why they did it, stating that these days, everyone has coffee machines, so it wasn't necessary. The old man they meet notes that the woman doesn't look like a moody mom and wonders if she's here to apply for financial aid. This scene was so heartbreaking, bawling my eyes out. Dojin's mother stutters as she begins speaking, explaining that some kids from the same school attacked her daughter. Her stuttering causes the man to wonder why she's so nervous. Eventually, she manages to say that the attackers wore the same uniform and had the same color tags. She adds that there was a boy and a girl with short hair. The man immediately realizes it's likely Chaewon. She then describes a girl with yellow hair and mentions that she overheard her name. However, before she finishes, the man interjects, already knowing it's Sangha. When she finally says the name, he cuts her off with a strange expression and asks if she's sure. The scene shifts again as Dojin's mother leaves, with the teacher assuring her that they'll get to the bottom of it and stay in touch. However, internally, he is relieved to let her go since she couldn't even remember the names properly. He knows that the headmaster will flip if he finds out. Just then, the headmaster appears and questions what he's doing. The teacher panics, thinking the headmaster was supposed to have a meeting outside today. The headmaster, Choi Tae-hyun, persists in his questioning. The teacher finally tells him about the fight between students. When the headmaster asks if Sangha is involved, the teacher hesitates before answering yes, but quickly adds that it's nothing to worry about since kids fight and make up all the time. He assures the headmaster that everything has already been taken care of. However, with an ominous aura, the headmaster orders the teacher to bring the woman to him. Ji means widely renowned, and one stands for Jade Pendant. The headmaster explains that the name signifies value recognized far and wide, emphasizing that the school was not built to have its reputation tarnished by incidents like this. He then mentions Dojin's mother, acknowledging that she must be quite surprised. Dojin's mother reluctantly suggests reporting the matter to the police, reasoning that tracing the location of the call would be the right course of action. A headmaster produces a student profile and stating according to Dojin's mother, the number in question is invalid. However, he points out that there was one student who recently transferred and wonders if they could be involved. Looking at the photo, Dojin's mother recognizes a similarity and demands to go to the police station. The headmaster interrupts with a dark aura, explaining that children today are different from how they were when they were young. Even with evidence, the juveniles often avoid punishment by using the law as an excuse. He warns that stirring up a hornet's nest ambiguously like this could lead to frightening retaliation. Addressing the fact that she came at him first instead of the police, he subtly points out that she must be just as concerned about her child as they are about their school. Concerned my foot, you onky care about you school stupid head. The headmaster advises that since the student is attending school voluntarily for now, it's best to observe the situation carefully. He expresses regret about her daughter's amnesia, then assures her that she's welcome to visit the school anytime she wishes. After all, as a parent himself, he understands her worries. This leaves Dojin's mother feeling deeply uneasy. At that moment, Dojin comes walking out of the school. She waves at her mother, questioning how long she's been waiting, reminding her that she could have gone home alone. Her mother scrunches up her face with worry, asking if she had a good meal or if anyone bothered her since her hair is all messy. Dojin reassures her, saying it's nothing like that. Why would anyone bully her? She adds that she ate well, but her stomach growls, making her embarrassed. On the way home with her mom, Dojin reflects on how she didn't make any friends or eat properly, but it's okay because she has someone who cares for her. She looks at her mother, who is smiling. Breaking the silence, she demands chicken for dinner, announcing that her mom should prepare it for her. At dinner, Dojin notices the food and offers to catch chicken for her mother. Her mother explains that it's not fried chicken. Dojin turns angry, exclaiming that she wanted fried chicken. Her mother tries to reason with her, saying that she just got discharged from the hospital, so nutrition is important. She mentions that Dojin used to love ginseng chicken soup, so she made it in hopes of triggering her memory. Dojin, clearly annoyed, pushes her plate away and complains about having had enough of this soup in the past. She sulks, disappointed after waiting all day for fried chicken. Her mother, apologetic, expresses regret for not being able to protect her or even give her the food she likes. Tears well up in her eyes as she berates herself for failing as a mother. This sight panics Dojin, who quickly reassures her mother, asking why she's crying. She starts eating the food, saying that she really liked it back then. Her mother watches her with a warm smile. The scene shifts to a gaming cafe where Chi-woon is playing a game. Her phone starts ringing loudly, and her friend nudges her to answer. Chi-woon grits her teeth, clearly unwilling to pick up. Her friend insists since it's her brother calling. Chi-woon, annoyed, remarks that it's a bother. Meanwhile, we see a group of people frustrated that Chi-woon isn't answering her phone. Someone mentions whether Chi-woon and Songha are in the same group. Soo-ji, irritated, Jeech girls besides Soo-ji make her recall how Chi-woon is notorious for her nickname, the Snake. Frustrated over being ghosted after helping Chi-woon, Soo-ji declares that she'll kill her. At night, Dojin tosses and turns in bed, finding it cozy but feeling regretful about throwing a tantrum over food. She reflects on how there are people out there starving because they have nothing to eat and hopes the food shortages have improved now but it's harvest season. Suddenly, she remembers Soo-ji and wonders if her back is okay. She also hopes the lesson she taught Chi-woon has had some effect, calling them all idiots, since they're just kids. The next morning, everyone complains about having PE as their first class. Having a physical lecture early in the day is a struggle when you comes abandoning your cozy bed meanwhile. Dojin opens her locker, only to find her uniform ruined. Dojin looks at her cupboard, unsure what to do. Meanwhile, the students are getting ready for class. Yoon-ah feels confident that Dojin will not come out today either, resting assured since it is better if she does not. Dojin has been relentlessly bullied, all because she did not lend her uniform. A past memory flickers to life, showing Chaewon angrily confronting Dojin. Chaewon, annoyed that her friend wanted to skip class for the first time in a while, raises her hand and slaps Dojin hard. She accuses her of rebellion and mocks her, questioning her loyalty. Chaewon tells Dojin that they are now attending PE class together and orders her to fall in line. Yoon-ah recalls how Dojin bled profusely that day. Yoon-ah also knows that Dojin managed to knock down Soo-ji yesterday, but she believes nothing will change. The teacher asks if everyone is present and announces that Class 3 will play dodgeball today. This declaration makes Yoon-ah freeze in fear. The teacher instructs them to start right away, but a voice interrupts. Dojin steps forward in her gym clothes, demanding them to stop. She apologizes for being late and pats the teacher's back, explaining that she could not find a place to change and had to maintain her composure. The teacher acknowledges her excuse and announces for the game to begin, advising the students to come to the gym room if something happens. Yoo-jin, on the other hand, watches her closely, still wondering how she managed to come out without her gym clothes. He glances at Songha, contemplating whether she has a plan. Behind him, Chaewon stares at Dojin, unsettled. She knows the Dojin she sees today is not the same girl who always got beaten up in front of everyone. Yesterday, Dojin's words were sharp and unfamiliar. Chaewon remembers trying to convince Songha that Soo-jae acted alone. She had told Songha that they were the ones in charge of Dojin, and if anyone needed to suffer, it should have been her. Chaewon, thinking it is too risky to face Dojin alone in her current state, begins plotting. She decides to push Dojin with numbers and take the initiative first. Turning to the other kids, Chaewon rallies them. She explains that Dojin is not in her right mind and tells them this dodgeball session will not be like their usual entertaining games. Instead, today will be different and they will go crazy. On the other side of the court, Dojin wonders aloud what kind of training this is. Yoon-ah nervously picks at her nails, knowing this is not just dodgeball. She explains to Dojin that they cannot go out of bounds even if they are hit by the ball. The students can kick the ball as hard as they want. It is murder dodgeball. Suddenly, a ball zooms past them. Dojin asks Yoon-ah again what kind of training this is. Yoon-ah grabs her hand, urging her to run. She describes it as rats trapped in poison. Chaewon calls them idiots, advising them to stop screaming and focus on catching the ball. She mocks their running skills and tells them to try harder, pointing out that if they catch the ball, they can change places with their opponents. Chaewon throws the ball to Rak, who graduated from Moody School as well. Catching it easily, Rak laughs and encourages her to do her best. He then hurls the ball toward Yoon-ah, but she dodges it just in time. This leaves Dojin confused. Chaewon starts targeting her victims one by one, knocking them out as she throws the ball. She mocks those who cannot keep up and throws the ball back to Rak. Dojin watches, bewildered, questioning if they are supposed to keep running forever. She cannot run any longer, especially since she is wearing socks today. When Dojin jumps, she notices the ground becomes unnecessarily slippery, but she refuses to remove her socks. The thought of showing her feet to these lowly creatures goes against her principles. Even in Jojin, people understood the significance of foot modesty. Wow. Shaewon taunts Dojin for spacing out. Rak also warns her that if she keeps standing still, she will get hit. He throws the ball, but Dojin defends herself, instinctively contemplating whether she should take out socks or not. This surprises Chaewon, who questions how Dojin managed to block the shot so well. Chaewon realizes she needs to eliminate distractions first. She throws the ball aggressively, hitting people one by one and causing them to cry out in pain. Laughing, she mocks them, reminding them that it is her hitting them, not anyone else. This sickens Dojin. Chaewon calls the others idiots for failing to dodge or catch the ball. She reminds them that catching the ball allows them to switch places with their attackers. Dojin looks at the fallen students around her, thinking, what kind of training is this? Chaewon assures Dojin that she cannot defeat their numbers. Smirking, she declares she will continue hitting her relentlessly, making her suffer for yesterday's humiliation. She promises that Dojin will get hit over and over, unable to cross the line Chaewon has drawn. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to someone talking to their father. The person reassures their father about their leg, throwing it high into the air and touching the class number board. The father seems concerned, but he brushes it off, saying he are fine. So we finally got our male lead. He enters the classroom and tosses his bag on the table. Looking out the window, he wonders if PE class has already begun. Removing Hua's shirt, he opens his locker, only to find his gym clothes missing. Dojin asks her fellows if they are all right. She knows they are all banged up, so she decides to turn over a new leaf. What good are the convictions she can cling to? The guy in glasses asks her if she's all right. Chaewon is impressed to see Ji Seok still having the stamina to stand. She throws the ball toward him, mocking that he knew when to back down. But before it approaches him, Dojin blocks it. He is shocked to see her block it. She bounces the ball on the ground, questioning if she can throw the ball now too. Holy, this was so cool. A mean, legit cool scene. The out team is in now, and when Chaewon and Rak believe it's their first time in here, they are confused over what Dojin is doing as she ties her laces. She throws the ball toward Rak, knowing that if it hurts, it's not flowing. He gets knocked down. Ji Seok throws it back to Dojin. Dojin believes during the time for training, crossing the line. If someone's dare to be arrogant, they will pay the price of their actions. While Chaewon goes to catch the ball, Dojin jumps up in the air and throws the ball toward them, knocking out two people at the same time. This makes Chaewon furious. She realizes how much her athleticism has improved while she was in the hospital. Yesterday wasn't just luck when she took down Sujai. Yoon-ah is impressed by Dojin's jump too. The ball comes to Yoon-ah now, and she wonders if she can pass this. She throws it with very light energy, making Chaewon pleased. At this rate, she's practically passing it out. But to her shock, Dojin again jumps to catch the ball, making Dojin very amused, wondering not to mess with her, unable to believe when Dojin catches the ball. She knows it's not just concentration on the ball, but pure raw athleticism and reflexes. Dojin balances her center of gravity by putting strength on her toes and right hand. If it were an ordinary person, they would have fallen without even thinking about balance. Dojin throws again, knocking out another one. This makes Chaewon very furious over the fact that they are unable to catch a single ball. Girl, if it's that easy, then why are you not catching it? Chaewon huffs. Ji Seok stands there, admiring Dojin as it feels like she is striking the nearby opponent with her bare hands. Chaewon is fuming, denying it. She's so pissed off that she could die. She doesn't want to be humiliated in front of Songha again. She looks at Songha, and Songha waves her off. Chaewon grabs her head, commenting, "This isn't right. This isn't how it's supposed to be," wondering they haven't had a real fight yet. She is scared for no reason. Chaewon comments that it doesn't matter if it's class. She will just beat her up. She grabs Dojin by her shirt, asking if she's hopped on something since she's been acting up since yesterday. Dojin, unfazed, demands that she show some respect while training. Chaewon pauses before stating that besides, aren't there a lot of people watching them? Mocking a truly strong person is someone who can win without crossing the line. She grabs Chaewon's hand, then pushes her inside the circle, making Chaewon grit her teeth. Dojin tells her she can grit her teeth all she wants since it's the best medicine, swinging the ball to give her plenty. Chaewon looks at the ball, thinking she has to catch it but wonders why it's so fast. When the ball hits her face, she gets knocked to the ground. The ball bounces back to Dojin. Shaewon calls her crazy, and Dojin again throws the ball to her, reminding her of what she told her yesterday, that she should cherish the body her parents gave to her. Dojin comments as she bounces the ball, "A good student follows their elders' teachings." As she is about to throw it, she screams if Chaewon knew who she was to force her to reveal her precious foot, and throws the ball to hit her face. Chaewon then pleads for her to stop. Getting the ball back in her hands, Dojin states, "Songha is the only one left." At the same time, a figure strides confidently toward them across the ground. Songha smirks, finding it intriguing. Dojin joyfully tells Songha to get ready to catch or dodge it if she can. Songha's attention is caught, and she glances backward, a sly smirk spreading across her face. Everyone around starts gathering near Sung Sai-woo, their shock evident as they register his sudden return to school. Dojin stands poised, ready to throw her final shot, but just as she's about to release the ball, a strange uneasiness washes over her. To the spectators' utter disbelief, Sung Sai-woo strides forward and kicks the ball out of her hand with ease. Bro, have such long legs, wow. With a cold, stiff expression, Sung Sai-woo demands to know who Dojin is. His gaze drops to her clothes, and he demands an explanation for why she is wearing his uniform. Without waiting for a response, he grabs her face and orders her to take them off immediately. He is the infamous mad dog of Juwon High School, Sung Sai-woo. The two stare at each other in complete silence. Dojin's thoughts race as she takes in his towering figure. To her, he looks strong enough to wield a spear and tall enough to command attention. His long arms seem fit to draw a bow far, and his deep, sharp eyes are unwavering, radiating intimidation. She has never encountered anyone like him before, and the thought crosses her mind, is he still a boy, or is he already a man? He breaks the silence with a cutting question, his voice low and sharp. He wants to know if she's not afraid of doing it again. His words puzzle Dojin, making her wonder what he could possibly mean by again. Slowly, she pieces things together and realizes that the uniform she's wearing must belong to him. She explains hurriedly, telling him she found it in her locker and tried it on. Her explanation does little to appease him. His eyes narrow, as if offended by her audacity. Without warning, he grabs her face, holding her firmly in place, and asks if she thinks this is funny. Dojin, angered by his boldness, resists and snaps at him, calling him impudent and demanding that he let her go. She adds sharply that she doesn't hesitate to hit men. Sung Sai-woo doesn't flinch. Instead, a mocking smirk tugs at the corner of his lips, and he responds coolly that it's good because he doesn't hesitate to hit women either, especially those who don't understand their situation. His tone is biting as he adds, almost tauntingly, that she can go first. Dojin's thoughts burn with irritation. How rude. Handsome, sure, but with zero manners. On God. Knowing his strength far surpasses hers, she grabs her hand, making him wonder what she is trying to do. There's only one thing Dojin regret is compared to his naturally built body, he has no manners. She strategizes quickly. As he grabs her hands, she suddenly pulls him forward, using his momentum to knock him to the ground. The crowd gasps in shock. From a distance, Songha bites her lip, trying to process what just happened. The school bell rings, breaking the tension. Yoojin turns to her and asks what they should do. Songha replies coolly nothing, they just need to prepare for the next class. The scene shifts to the school infirmary. Chaewon lies on the bed, her eyes fluttering open. She groans in pain, her hands trembling as she wonders if she faint and end up here. Still disoriented, turning to the teacher nearby, she asks how long she's been unconscious. The teacher responds 3 hours, frustration boiling over. Chaewon questions why didn't she wake her up? It's not like she ever care about menstrual pain, left alone renting a bed. Wow. What a way to cope with defeat. Funny, she continues ranting loudly when a voice interrupts her from behind the curtain. Mockingly states impressive, especially for someone who slept so well, still has so much to say. Chang-eun pulls back the curtains revealing Song-ha. Chi-woon freezes as Song-ha comments her mouth seems to be the only thing alive. Before Chae-woo can respond, Song-ha grabs her throat, leaning in close, blaming herself for tolerating idiots like her. Shang-woon, in pain, pleads for her to stop, but Song-ha tightens her grip and hisses, telling her to die. She loosens her hold slightly and adds that she wants one last chance for the sake of old times. Desperate, Shi-woon raises her hand weakly, signaling yes. Song-ha releases her and smiles faintly. Good. She adjusts her uniform and heads toward the door. After class, she adds, "Deal with Dojin," and to send her proof when she is done. Chi-woon nods nervously. Song-ha glances back, muttering to herself, "Strange. A girl who couldn't even squeak in front of them is acting bold now. Feels unreal." She picks up a paper cutter from the table, promoting Chi-woon to check it out, pointing, "Skin her if she have to." Who knows? Maybe there's someone else hiding inside her. Chi-woon's face goes pale, trembling as Song-ha chuckles, questions if she's as scared. Chi-woon swallows her fear and replies quietly, "No, she will do it." Satisfied, Song-ha leaves. As she's walking out, Chi-woon calls after her hesitantly, wanting to know if she will let her join the union meeting. Song-ha pauses, turning slightly. Chi-woon continues, she couldn't help but feel doubtful. If she has not done what she did yesterday, she wouldn't have called Soo-jae. Song-ha smirks, appreciating the honesty. Ki-woon adds, she even stayed up all night, afraid she wouldn't wake up early enough to put some Saigwoo's gym clothes in Dojin's locker. She looks at Song-ha, stating if she will let her join the meeting. Song-ha's tone is unreadable as she reassures her. Meanwhile, Soo-jae and her group members walk quickly through the school corridors, visibly agitated. One of them confirms Chi-woon's in the infirmary. Another adds she get her head during Dodgeball. Soo-jae clenches her fists. Dojin, she spits out angrily. Reaching the infirmary, she slams the door open, shouting Chi-woon's name. But instead of Chi-woon, her eyes meet Song-ha's. The two glare at each other, the tension thick in the room. Song-ha smirks, faintly asks coldly if she is here to visit Chi-woon too. Soo-jae grits her teeth after seeing Song-ha. Song-ha sighs, laughing as she comments on how taking care of Cheon-han is tear-jerking. Soo-jae coldly replies that it's nothing like that, pointing at Song-ha to step aside if her business is finished, as she has something to discuss with Cha. Song-ha, curious, presses further and asks if it's about the beating she got from Dojin yesterday, or if it involves Cheon-han or Muji, sarcastically wondering if there's some kind of preference survey out. This triggers Soo-jae, who demands her to get lost. Song-ha finds it amusing since she's been curious about the matter anyway. She calls out for Chae-woon, asking her directly if she wants to be with her or Soo-jae. Soo-jae mocks Song-ha. Commits she should have asked if she likes staring my mother or father. She tells Song-ha to stop being childish and calls out for Chae-woon again. Song-ha screams back, pointing her finger at Soo-jae, and says her question is incorrect, adding, Chae-woon doesn't even have a mother, double-checking this with Chae-woon. Soo-jae is visibly flustered by this, while Song-ha laughs, wondering if Soo-jae genuinely didn't know. Song-ha taunts, mentioning aren't friends supposed to share even family members. Then casually asks her if this about Cheon-han or Muji, hoping she got her answer. Soo-jae steps closer to Song-ha, gritting her teeth, but Song-ha coldly threatens her not to covet her stuff until she decides to get rid of it, pointing she doesn't enjoy sharing. As Song-ha turns to leave, she glances at one of Soo-jae's group members, which prompts a question. Song-ha mocks them for all flocking together like this, questioning if they are delinquents or something. This flusters the group, and one of them tries to calm Soo-jae by stating she is not of her level and promotes to so just ignore her. Soo-jae, however, fumes and mutters that Song-ha is a real bitch, adding that there's even a rumor she killed someone. What the hell? She killed Samun. Soo-jae storms into the infirmary, calling for Chae-woon, only to find the empty bed and realize Chae-woon has escaped through the window. This makes Soo-jae even angrier. The scene shifts to the classroom where the teacher is teaching. Sum-sai sits in confusion, still wondering how Dojin lifted her so easily the previous day. He didn't expect her to have such strength and begins to ponder whether she's been hiding it all this time. He wonders if she was letting herself get beaten on purpose. Who in their right mind would want to get beaten on purpose? As he reflects, he remembers how she even touched his gym clothes and is still wearing them. The teacher calls out Dojin, asking why she's still in her gym clothes. Dojin laughs and replies that the break time is too short, adding that changing clothes in just 10 minutes is impossible. Sum-sai sighs, knowing it can't be her, but instead wonders if Song-ha did something with his gym clothes again. What is she trying to do this time? Once is not enough for her. This scene shifts to Sum-sai, who is sleeping in class. Waking up, he mumbles to himself if there's no training today, but then notices the empty classroom. He looks outside and sees his classmates on the ground for PE class. Grabbing his gym clothes, he leaves for PE. As he passes by the school's music classroom, he stops after seeing Dojin. Curious, he asks what Dojin is doing there. Dojin replies casually that she doesn't have his gym clothes, rubbing her eyes tiredly. She adds, it seems like he didn't know it was gym class. She tells him to hurry up since the kids probably didn't wake him up, thinking he already knew about the training. Pointing she should probably go back to class. Without saying anything, Sung-sai leaves, throwing his gym clothes at her. Sorry for thinking you were a bad guy. Sung-sai. The scene shifts to the boys playing football. Everyone admires how well Sung-sai Woo is running. On the sidelines, Song-ha is lying on Yoojin's lap. Yoojin comments it's surprising that Sung is a taekwondo expert, given his dribbling speed. He muses that maybe it's because he hasn't been to school for a while. So many students from other classrooms have gathered to see his face. But then he pauses and looks around, confused over why that person is wearing gym clothes. Song-ha questions, who? And turns to look, spotting Dojin wearing gym clothes that are double her size. Meanwhile, on the field, everyone is in awe as Sung-sai makes a goal, admiring how he's pulling off such a great performance even in that outfit. Song-ha smirks and comments he seems so relaxed that he can even take care of others. Whereas Dojin, watching Sung-sai, smiles widely. Returning to class, Sung-sai's classmates praise him for his performance, wondering how he manages to sink every single shot. Someone else speculates if he's secretly on the soccer team. On the other side, Sung-sai is washing his face when someone comes and turns on the tap next to him. He looks up to see Song-ha standing there with his gym shirt. As he's about to say something, Song-ha calls him out, asking if he doesn't have a towel. She hands him the gym shirt, telling him he might catch a cold and to wipe himself with it. He looks at her, confused, asks why should he use this. Song-ha replies matter-of-factly he should take care of his belongings and turns to leave. This shocks him. He reaches out to grab her hand, but Song-ha turns back sharply, making it clear. Nothing here belongs to him, everything here is hers. Seems like found Hitler's twin sister. She continues, thanks to her grandfather's support for the school, from eating, sleeping, clothing, to even breathing, everything here is hers. She snaps her hand away from his grasp, her expression cold, mentioning if he wants to help others, he should use his own strength or at least ask the owner for permission. Song-ha urges him again to wipe himself already. Before leaving, she tells him they will meet at home then. What? Are they step-siblings? This is getting interesting, man. Sung-sai clenches the gym shirt in his hands, visibly agitated. He runs quickly, looking around frantically. Suddenly, he flinches at the sight of Chi-woon and her group bullying Dojin. Chi-woon is trying to force Dojin to take off her clothes, mocking her for not listening to them. Dojin resists, pleading with them to stop. This makes Sung-sai very depressed and in shock. Suddenly, Dojin catches sight of Sung-sai standing there. Their eyes meet, and Dojin shuts her eyes tightly, tears streaming down her face. Back in the present, Sung-sai stares at Dojin and sighs deeply. The scene shifts to Chi-woon standing in an alley. She curses Song-ha under her breath for bringing up someone's dead mother in front of Soo-jae. Lighting up a cigarette, her hand trembles as she wonders how Song-ha even knew about it when she herself has never seen her before and never mentioned it. Chi-woon throws her lighter in frustration, muttering, "When will Dojin come?" She glances to her side, thinking about how class must have ended already, but ponders aloud, where did Dojin get that kind of strength? She finds it strange how Dojin counterattacked without any leverage, because she had seen it all with her own eyes. Snapping herself out of her thoughts, she's suddenly distracted by someone singing. It's a secret. A girl with a flashy bag appears, introducing herself as a new member of the W Jazz Band. Yoon-ah excitedly talks about how good the new album from Rabbit Girls is. Chi-woon mocks her, calling her out and putting her hand on Yoon-ah's shoulder. After a tense moment, Yoon-ah nervously tells Chi-woon that Dojin doesn't have her phone. Kim-woon narrows her eyes over lying and threatens her if she wants to get hit. Yoon-ah, on the verge of tears, insists it's true since she hasn't seen her with it since she came back to school. She might have already gone home on a motorcycle. This leaves Chi-woon speechless. A motorcycle. Shing-woon is unable to comprehend how Dojin could already be riding a motorcycle. Shang-hood mutters if Dojin leveled up or something. Or maybe she even got a scout offer, starting to panic as she wonders if she did something wrong. Yoon-ah nervously repeats, Dojin really went home. She begs Chi-woo to let her go, but in her mind, panicking she need to see the Rabbit Girls concert today. If she doesn't leave now, she will be late. Yoon eyes Chi-woon warily, deciding that ramming through her might be the fastest way to escape. But she quickly abandons the idea, realizing Chi-woon is the type to chase her to the ends of the earth. Instead, she tries a different approach and politely states to her she is getting a little too excited. Reaching into her flashy bag, Yoona adds she always feels better when she eats something sweet and offers her to eat a sweet, pointing she can talk to Dojin tomorrow. I want that candy too. I don't know why. Chaewon snatches the candy, repeating, tomorrow? Yoon nods and smiles. Chaewon swings the candy in her hand, narrowing her eyes at Yoon, impressed over how mouthy she has gotten in just a few days. She leans in closer, questioning if she thinks this is funny, holding the lollipop near Yoon eye, adding Dojin is gone, and she is the one who is going to replace her and be their class slave. Yoon trembles terribly, completely terrified. Yoon pushes Chaewon and makes a run for it, but Chaewon trips her with her foot. Still trying to appease her, Yoon pulls out an energy bar, offering it while saying she's not really into them. Chaewon kicks the energy bar away with disgust. How disrespectful. Ew. Chaewon sits down beside her, questioning if she likes sweets. Yoon nervously replies she loves them. Chaewon races the candy Yoon had given her earlier, grabs Yoon hair and demands to open her mouth. Wide open, Yoon struggles as Chaewon forcibly shoves the candy into her mouth. Stating she talks too much, she has to block her throat. Yoon begins coughing violently as the candy stick pokes at her throat. Chaewon, clearly enjoying herself, with a mocking tone she insists why isn't she talking now, wanting to know if she is liking it. Out of energy and unable to speak, Yoon collapses onto the ground, vomiting the candy out. Chaewon grabs the remnants of Yoon hair and mutters, boring. Suddenly, Chaewon's phone starts ringing. It's Rak. She picks up and informs him coldly. Dojin doesn't have a phone herself, promoting him to steal a motorcycle and come here. Meanwhile, Rak is sitting in a shop, leisurely ordering food. Jajangmyeon, jampong, tangsuek, and add the complimentary dumplings. Dojin's mother, who works at the shop, asks Rak if he plans to eat in the store. Pecking his ear lazily, he replies she will have to deliver it to the address you will write. As he finishes his order, his eyes catch the keys hanging on the wall. The scene shifts to Dojin, struggling to pronounce the word hungry. It had been 10 days since she arrived in this world, and English characters were still unfamiliar and difficult for her. If there was one area she had adapted to quickly, it was food. She sniffs the air, her nose catching the savory scent of a tteokbokki stall. She calls out perfect, her stomach growling. Approaching the owner, she asks for the name of the dish and orders a bowl of it. As she eats, she finds the rice cakes delightfully chewy and the spicy red sauce rich in flavor. A delicacy, she exclaims, considering for a moment if she should appoint this chef as her royal cook. Girl, you're still stuck in the Joseon era. For the past 2 days, countless people had tried to take over her body. She concludes that the owner of the body must have been an ordinary high school student, helpless and bullied. Even as a queen, she herself had been a victim of wicked plots and pressure. Muttering the prime minister was the mastermind. Looking at her arms, she muses who could be the mastermind behind such a wicked assault on Dojin. Anyone with a brain wouldn't put themselves out in the open. Suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted as her mother runs toward her, looking worried. Dojin shouts she is back from school, mentioning she bought tteokbokki with the allowance she gave her. It had been 10 days since she arrived in this world, but if there was one thing she still couldn't get used to, it was people looking her in the eye. As Rak rides by on a motorcycle with her mom's bike, he locks eyes with her. How dare they? Stupid people. After all, she's a 500-year-old queen. She walks to her mother, worried if she is okay. She hands the tteokbokki to her mother, stating she will be right back with the motorcycle. Promoting her to eat it before it gets cold, Dojin enters the store. Her expression shifts when she sees food thrown all over the floor. Walking to the counter, she notices the address Rak wrote on a piece of paper, the parking lot with the red roof. She grabs the paper, crumpling it in her hand. At the parking lot, Rak is recounting the scene to his friend with amusement that the woman was in the middle of making the tangsuek when he started the engine and ran out like crazy. He mimics the woman's panicked reaction, making his friend laugh. The friend chimes in, wishing to see it too. Rak smirks, hitting his fist against his palm, explaining he really held back today because of someone when he should have gone trash that store. His friend agrees, adding, "It's good we didn't cause a big scene without Sana here today." Kyewon sighs, rubbing her forehead to end this already. Nearby, Yuna sits slumped against the wall, bruised and trembling. She was in great pain, pondering if this what Dojin felt. Rak and another girl grab Yuna, who pleads weakly to stop ignoring her. They'd burn her hand with a cigarette. Rak announces slave authentication complete. He glances back at Chiwon, who smirks approvingly. At that moment, Dojin enters the scene, silently placing the delivery food box on the ground. Her voice cuts through the tension as she comments coldly, "This is why he ordered so much food, because there's not just one throat to fill."